Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Giants fans to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast in association, as always, with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it is okay to talk. In this episode, we are 66% British, 33% Irish, but as always, 100% Giants. Dan is unavailable for tonight, so I am stepping in once again to host a preview show. However, I do have the magical twosome with me in Shane and in Kev. Boys, how are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. It's good to be back on with you guys. I finished listening to Tuesday's episode earlier on today, and it was a good crack listening to you guys break down the win that none of us predicted. So hopefully we'll have another one coming up this weekend. But obviously we're going to get into that and preview it plenty.
Yeah, it's good to be back on with you boys. I always love chatting football, you boys, and big game, late one on Sunday for us. I will be staying up for it. I don't know if everyone will be, but I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Sunday night footballs are always, as we just kind of said last week, a bit of a pain for some of us. Myself in being that one person, mainly because I don't do shift work, so I know that I will have to be up early Monday morning. But I'll try and avoid it as much as possible. Maybe watch it on the sly. Right, now, before we begin, if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or on X, then please do join in with the conversation. Get involved in the comments, as you always do. You guys are incredible. Subscribe if you haven't. Give it a thumbs up. Help us with the algorithm. Rate us on your pod of choice. Pet your dog, whatever you want to do. And we'll get into it now. Just a quick couple of things before we bring in Adam, who is from the Full 10 Yards guys. I've sort of been working with Adam for a few years through my Full 10 Yards stuff, so I'm excited to have him on. Just a couple of things just to mention. Obviously, it is getting closer and closer to Munich, which means it is getting closer and closer to our week 9 meetup up in London. Sports Bar. Oh, this is not a good start. Sports Bar and Google Marylebone. The watch party for the Commanders game. It's the legacy game that's been designated for this season. So obviously make sure that you wear your legacy jerseys to that. And for those with sharp eyes, there's a Jalen Brunson jersey right here. And that means we are NBA fans. And that also means that we're going to be launching an NBA fantasy football league on Sleeper. So if you are interested in getting into that, if you are an NBA fan, then please do reach out to us. Dan is working on that in the background, and we'll make sure that you get involved. Right. Take a breath. Let's get a guest on. Let's bring in Adam here. Adam, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Yeah, very tired. I was out last night, so not had the best of days today. It's been a drag, but yeah, quite looking forward to talking to you guys for a few minutes.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on. Pretty simple, four questions plus a couple of bonus ones. So we'll start where we always start with all of our guests. So why the Bengals? Because obviously from the UK, we don't have any ties. We're not born into it. So there's got to be some reason that you chose them.
Yeah, this is a childhood thing. It's a 1980s thing. It was growing up watching NFL with my dad. We used to record it on Channel 4 and then watch the highlights in the morning. And he became a Dolphins fan. And obviously being a 5 to 7 year old, I can't remember exactly, I liked Tigers, and I was a lefty. So I think when Boomer was throwing the ball, I saw a left-handed quarterback. I liked the Tiger stripes, and yeah, I think weirdly enough, that's quite a lot of Bengals fans is their reasoning for supporting the team.
Securely down to the logo and the Tiger stripes.
Love it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Like everybody has it in some weird way. We had Josh on a few weeks back about the Browns, and his was purely down to the ties with Villa. So everyone has their own little story behind it. So, Right, let's get into the questions. I know that obviously with the record that's sitting at the bottom of that screen, it might not be as pleasant as a season as you would have hoped this year. Now, Zach Taylor's obviously come under fire for his calling last week during overtime in that Ravens game that ended up being a loss. He called 3 straight runs before a 53-yard field goal in what seemed like pretty windy conditions. What are your sort of takes on the fact that some fans are calling it a choke job, and do you think that loss kind of rests on his shoulders?
Yeah, it's a tough one because obviously it's tough to blame it on Burrow, but he did throw a very costly interception about 5 minutes before that, which would have essentially iced the game. So it's it's for me it's kind of split a little bit. Apparently, the first play he called on that drive was a pass, and Burrow changed it to a run. So again, it's not entirely on Taylor. I don't rate Taylor as a play caller. I don't think many people do, and he does seem conservative with things. And obviously, the two after that, if I'm assuming you guys didn't watch the game with the commentary on it, but even on the commentary, they're saying you've got Chase 1-on-1 down the bottom. He'd gone for 170 odd yards. It's like give him a 10-yard slant. He was 1-on-1. Like they knew you were going to run, and instead we just ran up the gut 3 times, like you say. And obviously, it's trusting your kicker. And the kicker was fine. It was obviously the snap and the hold which killed it. But yeah, it's something that Zach Taylor does quite a lot. He does go quite conservative, and that was the way he went there. Obviously, didn't want to give the ball away, but ended up giving the game away. So yeah, it is a tough one to take, and it is something he does quite a lot, frankly. So yeah, it is. He's probably on the hot seat even more now that obviously across the city, one of your the Jets guy is gone. So I think Taylor's probably the next one up, but Mike Brown won't sack him in the season. So we've got him at least the whole season.
No, there were a lot of people that were kind of mentioning today about the fact that really you should be Super Bowl or bust at this point with him. Do you feel like maybe Taylor's the right person to take you to a Super Bowl?
Well, obviously he's got us there before, so it's difficult to say no. But was that on him or is that? Well, it was on Lou Anarumo, frankly. But yeah, I don't know who would get in who would be able to do a better job. He's changed the culture there. He's brought in leaders. He's brought in people of good caliber instead of Vontaze Burfict and people like that. So it's yeah, he's changed a lot around. It might just be time to give it a bit of a change. And as you say, with next year we're going to probably use T Higgins, so it will just be Burrow and Chase left from these guys. And yeah, I think it has to be Super Bowl if anything. But obviously that's going to be tough at 1-4.
Yeah, just obviously, speaking about the offense, there it's clearly the strong point this season. But how draining is it to have players like Burrow, Higgins, and Chase all firing, yet you're always in what seems to be like a shootout?
Yeah, we finally got an offensive line that can protect him. Finally got the most time he's had in the pocket in years. He's dealing. He's killing everyone at the moment. But yeah, it's conceding 30+ points every week. Yeah, it's painful. Yeah, the offense is great. It's fun to watch. Finally, the run game's really good. We've got Chase Brown who's looking great in the little bits that he gets. He's definitely the more explosive of them. Zach Moss gets a little bit more out of the backfield and more of the kind of chugging runs. Whereas Brown, he gets up ahead of steam so quickly, and he gets one gap and he's got 10 yards, and that it's great to watch, frankly. But yeah, having a defense that can't stop anything is very frustrating. Yeah, obviously, I think I saw a couple of you guys on week 1 and playing against the Patriots and seeing how good the offense could be, but then the defense being terrible. It was very frustrating, and yeah, that's where we are now. Obviously, that's why it's 1-4. Just need that one stop per game, really, and we'll probably win the games. But we're not even getting that one stop at the moment.
So I think Shane's got a question pretty much off the back of that, really.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, your defense does seem to be struggling this season up to now. Giving up 29 points and over 150 yards on the ground per game. Only the Patriots have scored under 20 points against you. So, what do you think's the root cause of these struggles has actually been?
Well, we've got no pass rush. We've only got Trey Hendrickson who can get to the quarterback, so that doesn't help. We're giving far too much time in the pocket. As you say, the run game has been a mess. We did have a couple of players back last week against the Ravens. We had BJ Hill back, who, frankly, we stopped the run quite well last week until overtime when Henry broke off a 50-yarder, and that kind of iced the game. But yeah, I'm confident that the run game will be a little bit, well, the run defense will be a little bit better. But it's the passing game is a bit of a mess. We keep giving everyone a soft 10, 20 yards. The cornerbacks, I don't know if they're struggling with pace, but they seem to go back with players, and then the second anyone puts their foot in the ground, they've got 5, 10 yards, and they're just not sticking with the players. So I think that's a case of obviously the quarterback getting too much time, and then being able to find people. But yeah, it's very frustrating. Again, I think we've got the talent there. It's just getting it working. Like Cam Taylor-Britt has been brilliant the last few years, and he's struggling a bit now. We've got players injured as well, which doesn't help. We lost Dax Hill last week, who's done for the year. He was probably the best cornerback safety that we've had so far. So it's it could be more of the same this week.
So let's sort of talk about some specific players from that list. I mean, we've mentioned quite a few here. We'll start with Burrow. He's been pretty much incredible since he came into the league. Looked every bit the number one pick last year. Saw his first real struggles, and it looks like they've kind of carried into this year, probably maybe related to injury more than anything. But do you think he's starting to get back to his best?
Yeah, I mean, he's number one in a whole host of categories at the moment. Obviously, with the defense being so terrible, he's having to be. But I think he's number one in touchdowns. He's only thrown 2 interceptions. Annoyingly, as I say, one of them cost him last week. I think the Patriots game was frustrating. I think it was more obviously Higgins and Chase both missing time in practice, and maybe if we'd got the contract sorted as they should have done, then it would have been a little bit of a quicker start, and who knows where we'd be now. But yeah, Burrow, I think I mean, you watch any of the highlights from his last few weeks, he's been brilliant. So he's definitely on top of it. And then Chase looks like he's settled in. He said he's not going to talk contract during the season, and yeah, to go for 173 and a couple of touchdowns against one of the better defenses in the league last week was really good to see.
So you kind of mentioned about Chase there. Obviously, he had his contract stuff in the off season, and I mean, he didn't even practice, did he? Until was it days before the Patriots game, or did he even
Yeah,
practice? It was like days, wasn't it?
no, I think it was literally days before.
So many of these players around the league. I mean, we're still looking at Hassan Reddick, who is costing himself things ransom really by staying out. Do you think that maybe players like Chase look at the way that wide receivers are being paid, and it just gets into their head? Do you feel like maybe we've got a bit of a problem in the NFL now with players holding out?
Right. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's more the agents, to be honest, rather than anything else. But yeah, I think obviously he's seen Justin Jefferson get his money, and he wants to beat Jefferson, and he will do. He was a year early on his contract this year. It was one of those that it was a year earlier than most players get the extension. So I get why Bengals didn't do it, but it's going to cost them 10 million a year in the end, because get it done earlier and you save your money on it. So yeah, it is obviously it is an issue, and it has been an issue, and it will continue to be. I mean, they're the guys that they pull off the plays, so they probably deserve it. But it is frustrating when you're seeing them not bothering to train or sticking out. But it's the only leverage they've got, I guess. So I feel like they kind of have to.
Yeah, and it's a short-lived career, isn't it? The majority of players barely last a few
Yeah.
years. Only the real good ones do, and even after they've retired, they end up with issues and injuries and anything like that. So, um, let's round it out then. We'll normally go for our predictions at the end, so we'll get yours now. How do you see the game going? And then at the end of it, give us what you think the score might be.
Well, I'm very happy we don't have to face the potential offensive rookie of the year this week. Um, that is a big bonus for the Bengals defense. So because of that, and obviously I mean Tyrone Tracy looked good last week, so I'm not going to discredit him on the ground. But coming in his second game as a starter is going to be tough. I think they'll concentrate on stopping the run again and put it on Daniel Jones, and it'll be whether he can get it done. Obviously, you've got Slayton and Wandale there, so you've got the short and the long there. So it'll be whether they can stop them as well. I think they will. So I'm going for 30-21 to the Bengals. Obviously, I'm not going to take the Giants to win, but it wouldn't surprise me any result in this game, frankly.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best times to play the Bengals that we've had over the last few years. I know we don't get to face each other very often. We'll get into that in our preview bit, but it does almost feel like a good time to play you.
Yeah, it definitely is. I will. I don't know if you can see I do have a Lawrence Taylor signed lid there, so I do have some little bit of Giants on my shelf over there.
We appreciate it. So before you go, Adam, just kind of give the guys an idea of where they can sort of catch you and obviously some of the stuff that you do for the full 10 yards.
Yeah, I do the betting podcast on Full 10 Yards. That's normally every Thursday. We've had to postpone it this week because pet issues with Liam. I'm at touchdowntips.com and at touchdowntips on X. I also stole at NFL UK once they ditched that, so I do have that as well. Not that I really use it that much. And yeah, I'm on Mr. Fix It Tips as well. If you ever want some betting tips. Betting hasn't exactly gone well this year, so I will state that first, but yeah, you can find me in various places.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Adam. We really appreciate it. We'll put your links in the description down below. And good luck for this weekend.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome. So that was Adam from the Full 10 Yards. We really appreciate him coming on and talking Bengals with us. We've been doing this for a few weeks now, guys. It's been quite interesting getting the sort of guests on, hasn't it? Just being able
Yeah,
to kind of like just get their perspective, just something a bit different.
yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I don't know what the listeners think about it. Obviously, we're always open to feedback, so let us know. But I think from my personal view, just from a kind of not from a podcast point of view, but just from listening myself, it's good to kind of get a view from the opposition or a view from the other side kind of thing. And it's always interesting to kind of, delve a little bit more into what we're going to be facing this coming week. And it's interesting to hear their thoughts about what they think about us potentially as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, it just gives a little bit of a different flavor to the podcast. Again, like a great point Shin makes, you get to understand and see what the opposition's view of us are and how they see us against them. And also, we don't delve into every single opponent with great detail for a whole season. So it's good to get them on and get a feel for how they believe that they're doing as well, because we see scores, we see stats and stuff like that, but these are the guys who watch every minute of every game like we do. So you do get a better feeling for the team you're playing.
Yeah, and when it gets to week 16, week 17, we don't want to go back and review 15 weeks worth of film, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, let's have a look at the preview. Let's start off the preview. So, Sunday is only the 12th regular season meeting between us and the Bengals since 1972, which is mental. The Bengals lead the head-to-head 6-5, so we're within that one spot. And just remember, last week against the Seahawks, we were one win away from tying up the series as well. So I'm taking any omens I can get right now. The Giants are also 4-0 at home against the Bengals. Here we go. Let's just keep it going.
You telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance. The last meeting between the teams was in Cincinnati on the 29th of November 2020 in a game that saw the Giants win 19-17 thanks to a touchdown from Wayne Gallman and 4 Graham Gano field goals. So a kick-heavy game on that one. Despite the difference of recent fortunes, with the Bengals losing 3, picking up a win against the Panthers, and then losing in overtime to the Ravens last week, they're favoured as the road team by 3.5. Now, obviously, the rule of thumb is normally that a home team gets -3 as default, so it's almost a 6.5 point swing there. But that's probably down to them averaging 35 points across the last 3 weeks on offense. However, despite that being the second best offensive, they've also allowed 34.3 points defensively across the same period. So you can kind of see that this has kind of the makings as a shootout, I think, a proper old-fashioned shootout, which would be nice to see. I can't remember the last time we saw a giant shootout that got into maybe the high scores. Can you?
No, I can't remember it at all, especially with it being on prime time. Is sort of a more of an interesting aspect to the game, but I'm here for it. Let's have a bit of a shootout.
Shane,
So
you've
we'll come on to prediction. As I say, we'll come on to prediction shortly. Does anyone else just want to see like a, I don't know, a 47-42 game? Like, give me calms, give me chaos, give me turnovers, give me everything. Like, I literally want to watch the. Well, I'm not going to watch the game because I'm up at 4 a.m. on Monday. But I want to watch the highlights and be like, oh, after I've watched it, like, I feel like I've been on a workout or something. Like, I just want to be like mentally drain me.
Shane wants Eli versus Drew Brees, the infamous game against the Saints. um, Speaking of Shane, you have found a good Giants comparison between this year and last year so far on Reddit. What you got for us?
Yes, this was something that I've seen the other day that I thought was really interesting. I shared it with Craig, so I think it might be the first time that Kev's seen it. So this is just comparing some stats from last year 2023 to this year 2024 at the same point in the season. So I was going to put it up on screen. Obviously, I will read it out as well for those that are listening on audio. But so the first stat I'll read for all the way through is going to be last year's stat, and then the second number that I'll read is going to be this year. So sacks that we've made was 5, and we're at 22. Last year we had 3 players through the first 5 games with sacks. This year we're at 11. We gave up 21 sacks, and this year we've given up 12. Rushed for 461 yards, currently 516. Rushing yards allowed is 757 versus 577. Passing yards completed 815 to 1091. Passing yards allowed 1,133. And this year it's 1,003. Time of possession last year was 155 minutes, currently 161 minutes. Points scored 62, 89. Opponent points 153. This year they're at 104. Offensive turnovers 8 versus 7. Defensive turnovers 3 versus 5. We gave up. We got 82 first downs, last year, and currently have 93 first downs. And in terms of first downs allowed, it was 103, and it's currently at 86. And then penalties given up last year was 35, and at this point of the season, it's at 29. So for those that are watching it live now or watching it back, you can see the stats that are underlined are the ones that are better. And those that are eagle-eyed will notice that every stat from this year is better currently on the screen than it was at this point last season. So I just thought that was an interesting comparison, just to show kind of how far we've potentially come already, and the improvements that we've kind of made in comparison to where we were sat at this time last year.
With that interest, just throw that back on screen for me for a second there, Shane. Kev, which one kind of stands out the most there to you?
Oh, mate, it's strange because like they all do. Like looking at it, like at the comparisons to see the difference from last year and this year. And to be honest, we've been hard on the team to begin this season. We were so close in a lot of the games, but I mean, like the points is a big one. I mean, 153 to 104 allowed. That is sorry. Also, like the rushing yards. Passing yards has been good. I mean, it shows that we have been airing the ball out and getting the playmakers the ball. The time of possession is good because you want to boss the game. I mean, sacks is the massive one. That's huge. I mean, we're leading the league in sacks this year, I think, 22. Only 5 last year. And Wink was supposed to be the master of blitzing and getting pressure and stuff like that. But, Shane Bone's doing a great job being able to get pressure with just 4 coming from all angles, though. But, it's just... and again, going back to where do you win? You win on the D line, you win the offensive line. We were sacked 21 times last year to only 12 this year. I think those are the two big ones. If you can win on D-line, win on O-line, it gives you a great chance to be in a good position to win games in this league.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think the one that really stands out, other than the improvements that we've had on the offensive line, 11 players with a sack this year just shows how maybe Bowen kind of generates pressure, not as textbook maybe as Wink. Maybe he's not as predictable as what Wink thought. Would that be a fair assessment, Shane?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the one that stood out to me was 11 versus 3 in terms of players with sacks. It's kind of like, how through 5 weeks did we only have 3 players with sacks last year? But then this year, it's also like, how have we had 11 players with sacks? Because that seems like a lot as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a massive improvement, to be fair. But yeah, thought that was an interesting one. Right, now that that's done, let's have a look at offense, and let's see what the keys are really for us to take over offensively, because as we've just heard from Adam, they're pretty good on offense, and if they do make this a shootout, we're going to have to now do it, probably, or not probably, we are going to have to do it without our biggest weapon again. However, it went okay last week, so what's our biggest worry this week? I'll tell you what my biggest worry is this week. Primetime Daniel Jones. We're back out here again under the bright lights of Sunday Night Football, and yet the same narrative is going to play out throughout the entire game and as we lead up to it until he breaks his curse. Can Daniel Jones perform in primetime? His only victory was 2 seasons ago against the Commanders in a game that saw him complete 21 passes for 160 yards, no touchdowns. So not exactly great numbers to have on your only win in on national television. I kind of had a look through every primetime game, or what they define as being, I guess, a Sunday primetime game. And you want to know his overall touchdown to interception ratio and the Giants' points scored versus points allowed ratio? He has 12 touchdowns to 20 interceptions. And the Giants have been outscored 412 to 221 points in prime time. It's not a good omen. It's not the best start, but it could be broken. I mean, if it's going to be broken, you've got prime time to really do it here. Now, as Mayonnaise says, lots of them are against Dallas and Eagles, which is true. We have had a really, because we're not one of those premier teams in the league, if we're on prime time, we're normally against the premier team. We were looking at the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers were on there. Obviously, lots of Cowboys. Obviously, lots of Eagles. There was a game against the Chiefs on there. We played the Seahawks a few times in prime time. Like, we have played the harder teams. Now, the other big problem that I just kind of want to touch on is that in the 2 games the Giants have played at home this season, we have 0 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. So, Shane, I know this is something that you brought up a couple of weeks ago, but let's expand on this a little bit. Does Daniel Jones have an issue with pressure in prime time and at MetLife Stadium?
100%. No, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I don't know. I don't know if he kind of, the best way I can describe it is like, maybe I feel like he feels on edge when he's at MetLife. Like he whether he's not thinking it, but he's just subconsciously thinking it, or it's in the back of his mind. The first time he misthrows something, or maybe he throws an interception, because quarterbacks throw interceptions, it's inevitable. When someone's throwing the ball 35 to 40 times, they're going to risk overthrowing, underthrowing, throwing an interception at some point. And I just think, is it a confidence thing that the minute he does that, especially at MetLife, he starts thinking, oh shit, they're going to get on my back. And, you know, let's be honest, New York fans and media can be pretty damn brutal when they want to be. And we saw that in week one with some of the reactions to Daniel Jones's performance outside the stadium after the game, etc. So I think for me, I just think maybe he feels on edge more than anything else. And maybe, again, another thing is, I don't know if he kind of thinks that in terms of prime time, because he's thinking the world's watching. You know, anyone who's tuning in to watch NFL at this time of day on a Sunday night is going to be watching me. It's not like a 6 o'clock game where there's 6 other games to choose from. So, you know, look, I don't know if it's something that he's maybe thinking, he's maybe aware he's thinking of, but I just do wonder if it's in the back of his mind kind of thing. And, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe we can, like, see if Glenn Hoddle can put him in touch with that shrink that he had at the 1998 World Cup or something.
Painfully out the deep cut. Kev, what do you think it is? Because by all accounts, Jones is quite calm and quite confident. Do you think, like, maybe the last few weeks and how he's performed since week one will give him the confidence boost to maybe push that aside this week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, he's on the right trajectory, as we were talking about on Tuesday podcast. Like, it's all about building on blocks, and he is building his confidence up, and, you know, he's definitely going the correct way for touchdown to interception ratios. I mean, I know his record 1-12 games like is absolutely awful, but you made a great point about it being against the Eagles and Cowboys, and they just seemed also. It's not a case of like maybe Daniel Jones's game dropping, although it hasn't been great. But I think those teams have really upped themselves. They've lifted their performances on those when the lights are brightest, and that's how they've got the wins. I mean, I was a little bit shocked when sort of this game got announced as a primetime game, because when I was looking through the fixtures, all right, Bengals, Giants, blah blah, and as it got closer, I was like, hold on a minute, where's the Bengals Giants on Sunday? And then I realized, I looked at my calendar, it was on Monday morning, and I was like, this is never the type of game that we've had for prime time. It's always been, like you said, the big boys, the big sort of divisional rivals type thing, because we haven't been a big name for a long time. But I think with Daniel Jones, though, I think he is building towards better football. I just hope that, you know, he doesn't crumble this Sunday night. But because this is against the Bengals, because it is against the Bengals defense, I think Dable will be able to keep him on track to be able to move the ball and score, and it won't be as much of an issue.
I think that's a really good point that you make there, actually, in the fact that Dable's called. I know, but Dable might have been calling the plays last year, but we didn't play him. Haven't played him since 2020. So Dable's calling the plays. So that's a different dynamic in itself, isn't it? Really. So be interesting to see how that goes. Kev, you've got a few standout players on who you're kind of looking out for in this game, other than obviously DJ. Who have you got on your list?
Oh, like, it's so funny going into these games and trying to think, like, how can we win? What can we do to go and get a W? I mean, first thing you have to talk about is Neighbors being out. Like, it is huge. It's a big thing. He is our number one weapon. He's an absolute superstar. You know, as Adam alluded to as well, he was saying about, like, first thing he said, he was glad that he wasn't playing. But you know, the way I look at it is, can Slayton and co step up again? You know, the Bengals starting cornerback Dax Hill is out this weekend, and their outside corners is Turner, whose coverage grade is 69.1, Taylor Britt coverage grade at 59.3, and their nickelback veteran Mike Hilton, his coverage is 52.7. Now those grades like are pretty bad, to be honest. So like, we should be trying to take advantage of cornerbacks that sort of give up those type of coverage grades. And then we have to talk about the running backs, because I love the fact that Tyrone Tracy had that breakout last week. He had the talent. We talk about it. He's got the talent, and rookies need to be brought along. But now with Singletary back, I think he's still number one running back. But why can't we have a two-headed monster? Why can't we be like Singletary, be the solid veteran, ground, gets you positive yards, doesn't do anything stupid, and then you have Tracy, who can kick on from last week and be your electric player. I mean, I think he had, 4 runs for 10 plus yards last week, which was first in the NFL. And 3 of those 10 plus yard runs were on first down. Now, if that's huge, if you're able to get first down play, a running back getting a first down, that just keeps the chains moving and keeps the pressure off. So like, I'm really interested to see like how they play as a tandem this week, because Tracy's carries have to increase with how he performed last week. I'm not saying he's going to get number 1 carries, but his carries will have to increase. And I love the way tight end, this is for you, Shane. I love the way tight end Johnson flashed last week. He showed real potential. So like, I want to see sort of him getting a bit more into the game. And, with Neighbours being out, it is frustrating. But it's nice to think that the Giants could have some skill position players with real potential going forward. Yes, there's been a lot of flashes, but it's there. Can we build on it? And can we get sort of like those players more involved in the game? And just a little bit about Daniel Jones quickly as well. He's been playing well up until, bar week 1. He's been playing really well up until last week. Sorry, he's been playing really well apart from the deep ball up until last week. And he's brought that into his game now. Now that's a threat. That's on tape. They have to respect that now. So like, now he's found that sort of like rhythm and good play. Can he kick on now? And can he be a dominant force? I mean, looking at the Bengals defense, the total defensive grade is 20. They're 26th in the league. Their passing defense is 18th in the league. Rushing defense 30th. Scoring defense 31st. And red zone defense is 26th. And third down defense is 31st in the league. Like, these are all type of numbers that, at the moment, Daniel Jones playing good football, offensive line protecting him. We need the wide receivers to catches, no drops, and we can take advantage. I mean, the Bengals D line is awful. Like Adam said as well, the only player playing well is Hendrickson, but the whole team has 6 sacks in the season. Like, Dexy's got 6 sacks on his own, the big beautiful man. So this isn't the defense to be scared of. So let's take advantage. Go out there and call these type of plays. I mean, run on them, because like, was it the 4th most missed tackles with 44? We thought Giants were bad for missed tackles, and we've only got 24, which is like 7th. It's still bad. It's 7th, but this team really does miss tackles. So, we talked about the review of the Seahawks game, offensive line. Like, they've been playing extremely well. Like, and I have got to give a shout out to one player as well. That was the most pass blocking snaps with 0 sacks allowed amongst all offensive tackles. London's own Jermaine Illuminor with 201. I mean, that's a great stat. I mean, we wax lyrical about Illuminor and how solid he's been, and we're still going to do it. We're going to carry it on because he has been such a solid force at right tackle. Now, like, Shane's must have read my mind, because I pulled up this stat for the offensive line for between last year and this year, and he's obviously gone and done like a really, really good one now. But like, last year's offensive line through 5 games, they had 10 different starters in 5 games. They allowed 14 sacks, 80 total pressure surrendered, and the PFF grade was 49.54. Now this year, through the same 5 games, they've had 5 starters. They've only allowed 3 sacks and only 51 total pressures, and their grades above 63. Now, that's a huge, huge improvement, and we want to see that carry on. We need to establish the run, because that's the weakest part of the Bengals defense, but that will allow the play action to be brought in, the passing game to be brought in. And now, if Daniel Jones is given time behind this solid offensive line, he needs to pick apart this defense, because this is a weak secondary that can be picked apart. I'm just sort of excited to see us being good in offense, not great, us being good at offense, playing a bad defense. How can Dable take advantage of that?
Was that a question? Sorry.
So, well, I mean, it is and it isn't. But I mean, like, so to the actual question, I have put one on here. I was like, but like, so Neighbours is out, which hurts obviously. But do we have enough in our arsenal to score on this Bengals defense, given what you saw last week, Shane?
Very fancy like giving a potential prediction score away. We've got enough to score some points. But you kind of need everyone to do the same job that they did again on Sunday. And I'll probably say kind of like, one of the issues at times has been like consistent play. Like, I feel like too often in the past we see consistency in terms of players having like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 good games over a season. But I just feel like we never really see players do it in back-to-back games or back-to-back games, and kind of that's what I'd like to see. And you know, I completely agree with you. You know, I want to see a little bit more of Tracy. Touching on the Seahawks game Sunday very slightly, I feel a little bit sorry for Eric Gray, because that first drive doesn't happen without Eric Gray, and I don't know if he was kind of pulled because of what happened at the goal line and the fumble, or what, you know, that's you know, kind of a coaching decision. But I just felt a little bit sorry for him, because I mean, you know, he looked fantastic in screenplays. You know, he looked determined when he got the ball, making players miss. You know, getting contact and still getting another 2 or 3 yards, which is something that we've missed quite a lot over the years as well. So, you know, I do feel a little bit sorry for Eric Gray. So, you know, on top of that, I would like to see Eric Gray maybe get a chance at redemption, so to speak.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, because like technically Eric Gray didn't do anything wrong, because that ball crossed that line. But anyway, that was last week's discussion. But like, I think time of possession is key here. So how big is it to keep Joe Burrow off the field with our offense moving the ball, Craig?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely huge. And I also think that one sort of maybe big part of it that we kind of forget about is that our defense played so well because they were well rested. So it's kind of like a double-headed animal here, in the fact that, like, it's important for us to sustain possession on an offensive side of things to really wear down their defense. But in the same thing, we need a healthy defense to go up against Joe Burrow to try and slow these guys down. We were talking about their, defensive backfield not being great. I actually feel like ours has improved a little bit, and obviously I'll let Shane go into that a bit more on his side. But I feel like we need to take advantage of teams like this. These are the sort of teams where we need to go, right, that's their weakness, exploit it. One thing that we did really well last week is that when they ended up having, I think Witherspoon went off, didn't he? And they had to bring in their third string cornerback. And Dable just went, yep, we're going to go for him. And that's the sort of thing maybe we haven't done in the past. We haven't been ruthless enough and not really targeted players. Like, yeah, it's a bit harsh, but it's a results-based business. Like, you want to score. If somebody's having a bad game, target them. Just go after them. So, I think there was a question in the comments. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Just, from a offensive point of view. Jonaldo, great name. Kev, do you want to answer that one? So, thoughts on Wan'Dale Robinson, fellas, and starting him in fantasy this week?
Oh, 100%. Definitely. I mean, this is a great game to be starting Wan'Dale Robinson. I think with Slayton playing so well last week, I think he might be double covered. They might try and put the attention on him. And, we've seen that, we don't generally throw past the sticks. I don't know what the stats are to hand, but, apart from, trying a couple of downfield throws, we generally try and keep it around the sticks and try and make someone like Robinson get the ball and make the first down. And he's so shifty that, he could, shake people out of their boots and get away. So I think he'll be targeted a lot. And he had 1 or 2 bad drops last week, but I think he'll come through and he'll have a monster week this week.
Shane, what do you think about Wan'Dale and fantasy? His yards after capture, obviously, a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said numerous times, Wan'Dale, let's be blunt, he's won me over. I wasn't a fan of the pick at the time, and now I'm finding myself at times watching games saying to myself, why are we not getting it to Wan'Dale more? Like, get the ball in Wan'Dale's hands, because he's such a good yak player. So again, it's one of them with Neighbours. Neighbours, his concussion problems, we don't know how long that could last. Hopefully it doesn't last too long, because you got to think of the welfare side of things more than anything else. But for me, it's a case of, okay, Hyatt's not stepping up, Hyatt's not doing it. Slayton did step up this past week, but Slayton can't do it all on his own. So let's get Wan'Dale more involved. get the ball in his hands, and you can throw it. You can throw a screen 3 to 5 yards to one down. It can easily take it for 13, 15 yards.
And also, just to add, if it's half PPR or PPR, then it's an absolute no-brainer. Like he'd be one of your best players this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's switch it across to Shane. Before we kind of get into the preview side of things, though, Shane, both myself and you we were talking about a stat that we saw about the Giants' pass rush. Now, you're the defensive guru with Dan. Obviously, Dan's not here, so let's hear about a record that we could potentially tie.
Yeah, I mean it's a positive record rather than I always feel like it's negative records that we always come close to breaking or tying. But yeah, entering week 6, the New York Giants led the NFL with 22 sacks and have recorded at least 5 sacks in 3 of their first 5 games. Now, with 5 sacks against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, the Giants would become the 3rd team since 1990. Apparently, all the best people were born in 1990. It's just a rumour I've heard. But they've become the 3rd team since 1990 to record at least 5 sacks in 4 of their first 6 games of the season, joining the 2019 Patriots and the 2000 Bucks. If they were able to get 6 sacks on Sunday night, though, they would then tie the 2000 Buccaneers and the 1998 Seattle Seahawks, who had 28 sacks, for the 3rd most sacks by a team in their first 6 games of a season since 1990. And then just to kind of round it off, the teams with the most sacks in their first 6 games of a season since 1990 was the 2013 Chiefs, who had 30, 97 Falcons with 29, and then obviously the Bucks and the Seahawks, as I mentioned, with 28 each.
I mean, that's mental, isn't it? That we're talking about the Giants defensively being able to potentially break some records or at least tie them is fantastic. Before you get into your defense, I've just seen what's quite possibly my favourite comment I've ever seen in the comments, and it's come from Twitch. We don't get a lot of Twitch here, so I really appreciate it. Someone has just said, "This is the best show on Twitch for us beard lovers. It's every stage of beard growth from Shane to me and me to Kev." And Dan's obviously is a bit fuller than yours, Kev. So if he was here, there you go. For any beard lovers out there, you know the pod to watch. That's absolutely cheeky. I was not expecting that.
You know, next time the 4 of us are on, you have to put us in the stages. You have to put us in the boxes.
Yeah. Right, Shane, defense.
Yeah, just before we go into that, I mean, like, is it just me that's thinking stick them stats up in the defensive room this week? Like,
oh, yeah.
make sure the likes of Burns and Sexy Dexy know about this, like, because they seem like the kind of players who'd be like, yeah, we're going after that, lads. We are going for the. We want to be up there. We want, that's kind of that's what you drafted for. That's what you paid for, to kind of have some sort of stats or Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it. But 100%, I'll be using that as a little bit of driving force. But yeah, as we talk about the defense, a couple of points that we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about. Thanks to Dan as well for putting some of this together, or the majority of this together. I'm not going to lie or bullshit yet, to be honest. So point 1. Banks and the DBs against Chase. Now, obviously, last weekend, Banks was my player of the game for his performance against DK Metcalf. And one of the reasons for that was because I thought that Giants fans in general, and myself included, have been quite harsh on Deontay Banks through the first 4 weeks of the season. And he had a really, really good game on Sunday against DK. And, he's already faced the likes of Jefferson and CD Lamb this season already. And he's got another tough challenge again this week in the form of Jamar Chase. I mean, some people might even say Jamar Chase is going to be the receiver out of all the ones he's faced, to be honest. But I feel like you could keep saying that every single week with the wide receivers that we've come up against. Now, Chase is 2nd in receiving yards in the league through 5 games with 493 yards. And in last week's overtime loss against the Ravens, he had 10 catches for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. So far through this season, 233 of his yards have also come after the catch as well. So he's not just a big body receiver who's going to go up and get it. He's a wide receiver who's going to go up, get it, and then he's going to, potentially house it or gain the extra yards that we was talking about. Now, according to statistics, the Giants through 5 weeks have run with a single high safety on 61% of all quarterback dropbacks. And since T. Higgins returned from injury, Chase has 13 catches for 278 yards and 4 touchdowns in single high coverage. Now, we're going to need Banks to be a lot tighter with his coverage this week and not give Jamar Chase the chance to get a step on him. We have seen what happens when that does happen so far this season. I'm thinking of the CD Lamb touchdown that he had against us on Thursday Night Football. But then we've seen what happens when he doesn't allow receivers to get a step on him this past week against Seattle. And obviously, the Seattle Banks is the Deontay Banks that we all want to see. Now, we expect Banks to line up opposite Chase in the majority of his snaps, but we can't just purely rely on Deontay Banks because, as mentioned, T. Higgins as well. You know, he's a player that a lot of people were talking about. Maybe the Giants signing him free agency if he'd have hit, or maybe even trading for him. So, you know, goes without saying, we all kind of know what kind of wide receiver T. Higgins can be as well. So, you know, we're going to need other DBs to step up. And, you know, Cordell Flott, someone I'm going to be looking at. Yeah, he had a good game, probably his best game as a New York Giant, to be honest with you, on this past Sunday, in all fairness. And then obviously we need a little bit of help as well in regards to Drew Phillips from the nickel. And then even the safeties as well, Tyler Newby and Jason Pinnock. We know how active that the 2 safeties that we've got can be. So we're going to need help from them as well. But so far this season, as I mentioned, you know, we have come up against our fair share of elite receivers, and our secondary have had kind of mixed results, really. Craig, are you worried about the Burrow and Chase connection and then potentially exploiting our slowly improving secondary?
Yeah, I think it's only natural. I mean, the two have had chemistry not just in the NFL, but prior to that, in college. They are coming up against a fellow LSU player in Slot. Am I correct in saying that? My 2 college gurus. Slot was LSU, was at LSU, wasn't he? So, you know, he's seen it firsthand in college. So, yeah, I think we have every right to be worried about it. And it's not just that connection. Like, you're talking about 2 elite players in the league, and T. Higgins, he ain't far off it either. Like, T. Higgins has slowly improved year on year and really is probably one of the better wide receiver 2s out there, probably full stop. So it is going to be really, really difficult. But I do feel like that secondary is starting to gel a little bit, starting to get a bit of confidence. And as we found out with some of the players last year, like Bobby said, when learning Wink's scheme, like it took a good 5 games to kind of get it. And maybe a lot of the defense are slowly starting to get it now.
Kev, obviously, Craig mentioned there about Higgins being probably one of the better, if not the best wide receiver 2 in the league. Do you think there's a little bit of a concern that maybe we could over-focus on Jamar Chase and not disrespect T. Higgins, but maybe not give him the attention that he deserves? So is there a risk that, whilst we might shut down, say, Jamar Chase for 38 yards, T. Higgins could then go and have a 150-yard game? Is that a concern?
It is a concern, but I think Shane Bowen quite likes to play 2 high safeties a lot anyway. Like, and I think he'll sort of end up trying to protect both cornerbacks over the wide receivers, which will leave us susceptible to the run game. Now, our defensive line needs to really step up. If we're going to play a little bit off coverage or a little bit more nickel and with 2 high safeties, then the linebackers and D-line is going to have to keep that run game in check, forcing them to throw more. They're a throw team anyway. We understand that. So I think they could not overcompensate necessarily for Chase, but I think they will maybe double both of them guys, and then so it makes that sort of like third receiver. Drew Phillips in the middle is going to be one-on-one there, and that's going to be a bit of a tight, hard assignment for him. So I think you might see sort of more cloud coverage, maybe cover 4s, stuff like that, trying to or man up with double teaming with the safety over top of both of them, which leaves you massively open to the run. So can the D-line linebackers keep that run game in check? Will be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So on to my or Dan's second point as well, that we kind of both agreed with pretty much, and that's going to be replacing number 5 overall pick from last year's draft, number 5 on the New York Giants, and that's Kayvon Thibodeau. He's out of the game because of a wrist injury, and one of the key things we've kind of got excited about for this season after what happened during the off season, and free agency draft, etc., was the pass rush. Obviously, Thibodeau, Burns, and what Dex can do as well. So with Thibodeau being out, it's going to leave a big hole on the edge, and Azeez Ojulari is going to be the guy that we're going to be kind of looking to step up and see an increase of his snaps. Now, through 5 games, Azeez has been on the field for 114 total snaps, with 98% of those, which equates to 112, coming on blitz packages. And through those 114 total snaps, Ojulari has had 10 total tackles, 1 for a loss, 2 quarterback hits, 1 sack, and a fumble recovery as well. Now, Shane Bowen looks with his scheme for the linebackers to drop into coverage, and we're going to need to see more of Azeez as the defender as opposed to Azeez the pass rusher, which is what we've seen in the past. And in all fairness, we don't really know what Azeez is like in terms of his pass coverage, because he's very much often been expected to rush the passer, as you say. He's posted 76.7 PFF grade on his 2 coverage snaps so far. Make of that what you will. So the grades irrelevant. It's just stupid stat. I don't know why they've got it. I personally think they should have stats like that, but there needs to be a minimum number met rather than just saying, "Oh yeah, on 2 he's done this." But Dexter Lawrence's confidence that Ojulari can step up and fill the gap left by Thibodeau. But so far during his career, we've yet to see the best of him, and to see why we drafted him in the second round back in 2021. He's obviously in a contract year as well, so this is a chance for him to put himself on the map over the next maybe couple of weeks, could be potentially be a couple of months. We don't know, and I'll come into that in a second. But we need to see the Azeez that we've seen through the first 2 seasons of his career. Through those first 2 seasons, he had 13.5 sacks and 4 forced fumbles. So he knows how to get to the quarterback. He knows how to find the football. He's going to be dropping into coverage there, and what he can do. And he might need potentially help from the likes of Bobby to guide him a little bit, because it's something he's never really been asked to do so far in his young career. But obviously, in terms of Tibbs, it is being reported he could potentially miss anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. Dabes is giving his usual cage answer, and that's not a knock when I say that, but he's not coming out and giving a straight answer. He's just saying that he's week to week. Kev, how big do you think? How big of a concern do you think he's going to be losing Thibodeau for this length of time? And can Azeez step into that hole that's going to be left by him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, because Thibodeau, although hasn't been flashy or hasn't put up the sack numbers, I think he's played really well. I think he's been really stout against the run. And although Burns or Sexy Dexy has been credited with the sacks, every time most of the times they've got them, Tibbs has just been there. He's just met them. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of I love seeing Burns and Thibodeau coming off the edge. If Burns gets there first, Thibodeau's not far behind him, and they kind of meet together at the quarterback. I think, to answer the actual question, though, I think Azeez is a good pass rusher, as you said. Actual pure pass rusher. I think he's very, very good. And this is a great opportunity for him in contract year to go out and show why he was picked second overall. Everyone believed he was a first-round pick, and the only reason he dropped to the second round was because of injury history, which has plagued him throughout his career. But he's healthy now, and now he's going to get a run in games to go and show what he actually can do. I think, to speak about this game specifically, I think if we can control the ball the way we hope we can and score enough points that we believe we can, then the Bengals will be in shootout mode and they will be passing a lot. So I think this game particularly is made for someone like Azeez. But long term, I think, show us, go out there. This is your opportunity. Go out, show us why everyone thinks you're a good pass rusher, but also a good defensive end. So will it hurt? Yes, but I really want to see Aziz grab this opportunity and go with it.
Craig, just one for you. I see a couple of comments here. Mayne said, I bet we see more Simmons and no Mets, Nets and Jets. Simmons let him play. Do you think with his effectively game-winning play that he made last week on special teams that Simmons has possibly earned an opportunity for more playing time and to step into the gap that's going to be left by Thibodeau, especially when you consider how athletic Simmons is and he might be a little bit quicker and snappier to drop into coverage and chase the ball carriers down compared to Aziz?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think, if we are looking, let's say we're ahead. I mean, slow ourselves down and get, calm ourselves down a little bit. But let's say we're ahead, and the Bengals have to go into pass-only mode. Why not? Yes, you want to get pressure onto the quarterback, but we could almost have, like a Swiss Army knife there in the fact that there's nothing to me that says that Simmons couldn't rush if he had to. Like, if it came to it, he could probably do it. But to drop back into coverage, that's almost like having an additional safety on the field almost, but that kind of linebacker safety hybrid role. I don't think they'll do it very often. I really don't. I feel like they have a game plan installed, and maybe Simmons just doesn't fit that game plan at the moment. It's hard to say. I mean, didn't get a single defensive snap last week, and hasn't really for the entire season. So I don't see that you just put him in because he made a big play. And, it was a massive, massive play. I think somebody else brought up I think it was no Mets, no Jets, said, Burns has to step up also, and Burns will have to earn a portion of his contract on Sunday night. And I think that's a really, really good point as well. And not just for Burns, but maybe for Aziz as well. We've seen Aziz go opposite Thibodeau, and Thibodeau when he's not struggling, but maybe not as flashy and maybe not as consistent as maybe someone like Burns is. So when you're now putting him on the opposite side of Burns, does that mean that Ojulari maybe has less pressure on him? Maybe feels a little less pressure as the sort of elder statesman of the two pass rushers between him and Thibodeau, as opposed to Burns, who will now take that elder role? I don't know. Just an interesting thought there.
You know what? Just quickly, sorry, that's a great point, Craig. I mean, when we drafted Aziz Ojulari, pardon me, I can't even think who the other pass rusher was. So he sort of came into the team and he was expected to be the number one premier pass rusher. And now, obviously, with Thibodeau and Burns there, but also with Thibodeau out and Burns on the other side, garnering that attention, and Sexy has all the attention inside, he can play a little bit freer. Do you know what I mean? And get that one-on-one matchup and show his speed on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So just before we kind of flick over to predictions, I'm just going to bring it back and just go through the injury reports, because the injury reports are out for both teams. So I just want to get your thoughts on the questionables for the Giants. Now, obviously, we knew that Neighbours and Thibodeau were out already. Dable had already confirmed that, but we didn't know about anything else. We've got Bryce Ford-Wheaton with a shoulder injury there, who is questionable. Running back Devin Singletary with a groin injury. That's to be expected. I mean, I'd expect Singletary probably to play. But this is one, and I actually think it was brought up earlier by somebody in the comments, but I've saved it for now. Jamie Gillan, left hamstring. That is an ideal, because he's a kicker, and we've already had some hamstring issues with kicker. So, Shane, what are your thoughts on seeing Gillan appear on that injury report? Do we need to take up? Do we need to find a backup punter?
Yeah, I mean, like I'll just put it out there. Like, I'm left-footed and I'm a long weekend off work. I ain't back until Wednesday, so
Send the private jet.
yeah. I don't know if Ryanair flies to New York yet. I think it's cheap as I can. But now, it's something we don't want to be talking about. We've kind of had these conversations in the past, and I think for me, if there's what I don't want a repeat of week 2, was it? I think now against Washington. Obviously, when when it's that weekend with an injury, whether it's the injury that he occurred, I don't really care about that. But if there's any kind of questions or potential doubts, I would rather not risk Jamie for 1 week and know you've got him for the next, say, rest of the season or whatever, than potentially risk him this week and then he potentially misses 4 to 6 weeks because of a hamstring injury. Because hamstring injuries are awkward at the best of times.
So Bill just said something before you come in saying someone, Duggan, potentially Duggan, said they were working out punters today, got on the practice squad, and if Gillen is not good to go, call him up. And that's good because that's what we didn't really do last time. And then Mayo has said we're not going to punt, and that's the kind of positivity
Love
I like
it.
to see in the comments. But Kev, what are your thoughts on the Gillen situation? I mean, it does look like maybe we've learnt from our previous mistakes there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think because obviously the two elevations from the practice squad, working out punters today, and let's face it, like punters are so kind of like they are people too, but like they they have a job. They know their job. It's not they can come in off the street. Do you know what I mean? With a bit of practice, they've obviously been practicing with themselves. It's the holding situation might be a bit tricky now on field goals and extra points. I'm interested to see how they do that. But actual punting, bringing people in for workouts, having them ready to go, it's a pretty much easy transition. So it's a shame though because I thought Gillen's been playing so well. Do you know what I mean? The fact that we haven't complained about punting all season kind of shows that he's just been doing his job. Pushing the other teams back, dropping it in the 20 or thereabouts. A lot of fair catches. So I think he's quietly been doing a very, very good job this year. So that is a shame. But I think punter's one of the positions, even more so the kicker, more so than kicker. I think punters is one of the positions that can come off the street and relatively not skip a beat.
Yeah. I mean that's a fair point. I mean it's just trying to figure out who potentially is out there. I was going to try and have a look, but obviously every website has moved on to 2025 now, so it's hard to see who's the free agents out there. I mean, Brad Wing. Sorry, Andy, calm down.
Easy, Andy.
We know you're listening.
Easy.
The Bengals injury report, Chase Brown, running back, and cornerback Mike Hill are both listed as questionable. So if their cornerback has a questionable knee injury, I am targeting him. And they have a cornerback, DJ Ivy, who is out with a knee injury as well. Doesn't look like any names have been leaked for that. But
sorry, what was the running back? Was there a running back on the injury list? Sorry.
Yeah, Chase Brown, quad.
That's big. That's huge because he's been so good for them this year. Proper explosive. I mean, if he's out, that's fantastic news from us because their other running back is okay. I can't remember his name now, but he doesn't scare me.
Is it Zach Moss? I think
that's it, Zach Moss. I mean, he doesn't scare me, but Chase Brown's explosiveness that scares me. So that's decent news, I suppose. I mean, I hope he gets well, obviously. Not for Sunday.
It's so weird, isn't it? Like when injuries come up and you're like, yes, they're out, and you're like, yes, they're hurt.
It's weird. Yeah. What, he broke his leg? Fantastic. No.
Right, on that bombshell, let's have a look at prediction time. So, as always, get your predictions into the comments. We have ours coming up now. Obviously, we will run it in the same way as we always do. So, Dan, Kev, Shane, and myself. Dan, Mr. Positivity, Mr. Giant. What has Dan gone for, Shane?
Bengals win.
He has. He has gone for a Bengals win. He's gone 31-27 win for the Bengals. Now, Kev, I know you've been flip-flopping.
Mate, proper.
So I put your most recent prediction on here, which was
31-27 to the Giants. Bengals driving down the field. Interception kills the game. Get in, Giants.
Why have you jinxed us? Last week we all picked the Seahawks and we're going to win. Like what are you doing? Like you've
I missed-
literally.
I missed
What?
the memo.
You know, if we lose this week, this is all you.
It's a lot to put on my shoulders, but
I
okay.
don't care. I'm pointing on your shoulders. You better go and get some shoulder pads on. It's going firmly on your shoulders.
Okay.
I went for a Bengals win, 13-20, did I say?
You did say 13-20. Right.
Do not. Do,
Please, Craig, don't leave me out here as lone wolf. Yeah, my guy.
you two are a disgrace. And I'll tell you something now. I would love it if we beat them. Love it.
Do you know what? I bet Dan really wanted the Giants, but he thought we were all going to go Bengals to keep the good luck going.
I'll tell you now, Dan's fuming listening to this.
Yeah, I bet he's
Off.
pulling.
I'll put my money on it. Absolutely comfortable.
So yeah, 27-24 win I've gone for. There's just something there. There's something, that confidence boost from last week has invigorated me and pushed me into the realms of non-fence sittingness.
Is this the first time you've had the Giants to win since week 2, maybe?
Potentially. Yeah, potentially. Whatever you've taken for the last 2 weeks, I'll take it.
Oh, I ain't had the Giants to win since week 1.
Yeah, so maybe I've had the same. So
and even that surprised us.
Yeah. Now, I was actually talking to Brian O'Leary from the Irish NFL show earlier, who's obviously a friend of the pod and a good friend of all of ours. And I was talking to him about our predictions, and he said somewhere, I don't actually, it might have been when we were talking earlier actually, and he's going for a Giants win as well. Like he said he's feeling it. So we're not mental. We're not mental, Kev.
Good.
There's another Mr. Pessimistic. Well, not Mr. Pessimistic, actually. I think Steve's normally one of the optimists, but 27-17 Giants.
Oh, Steve.
Mayo's gone 38-21.
Go on, Mayo.
The Giants. Bill has said, "Do you think we hold the Bengals to 20?" Jane?
Yeah. Have you seen this deal over the first 4 or 5 weeks? I mean, yeah, okay, we had the Minnesota one, but I'm confident in this defense.
How tempted were you to go 47-44, Shane?
It crossed my mind.
Well, to be fair, Steve earlier did say screw the chaos. That'd be far too much.
I want chaos. I want chaos. I want carnage. I want annihilation. I want everything.
And we did also have Jeff from New York Revival earlier saying, hoping the Giants can pull off the win. We need this. So shout out to the Revival and the Revivalists. So there we have it. Well saying from your lips to God's ears. There we have it. There was another, just before we sort of hit into the wrap up, there was another comment earlier that I couldn't bring up saying, Mayo saying, let's go, got some face value Munich tickets today. They released some more tickets. Keep an eye out for those tickets. If you're listening or watching and you're wanting to go to Munich, keep an eye out for tickets, because there are some that are sort of starting to appear. Keep an eye in the Facebook group for the the New York Giants UK fans Facebook group, because there's always a few sort of knocking about there. There's the odd one or two. If you're looking for a group, you might struggle, but for the odd one or two, there's definitely some out there. And obviously that's only a few weeks away now. And then both Andy and Keith from the fans UK page, who are the admins, we're all going to be out there. So please, if you are out there, come and find us. If you see us, come and chat to us. Give us some feedback. We love all of that. So, but yeah, also if you're a solo traveller or whatever, get involved. I know that there is a lot of solo travellers in our group at the moment who are sort of starting to chat to each other and talk about hotels and flights and who's getting the same flight and who's in the same hotel. So, reach out to us if you're concerned or anything, because we want as many people to be out there as possible, and it looks like we are going to have one hell of a contingent making that trip across to Germany. So, yeah. Eric. James has said Eric Gray fumble in the opening play equals Giants win. I don't think I can deal with that 2 weeks in a row.
At 1:20 in the morning, if that happens, it'd be like going to
Put
bed.
it off. It's got week one last year written all over it with saying,
Yeah.
right, right. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this evening. However, we will be back Tuesday night to review the game. And as you can see on the screen, we have a split prediction. So who knows what might happen? Anything else you want to add before you go, guys? Shane, unless it's slander against us. No more of that.
No, just it's always a good crack having a chat with you guys, and obviously as always, thank you to the listeners and people that have got involved. And if you're not getting involved, if you've just been watching us or you're listening to us back now on podcast, thanks ever so much. It is much appreciated. Obviously, Craig just mentioned about the Munich stuff, and obviously the week before we've got the Washington meet up in London. And again, if there's any solo people that are maybe debating coming to that, please genuinely do. We did it last year; it was a good crack, and it'll be certain to be another good one this year as well.
Yeah, just to piggy off the back of that, it's the 3rd of November, meet up in London, 10th of November, the game in Germany. Fantastic. If you can go to either of them or both, if you can't go to Germany, try and make the London game, because we'll be there, the London meetup, because we'll be there, having the crack and everything is, they're really, really enjoyable. And I guess with Commanders, go out and try and keep this thing rolling, get some wins going. And again, London or Munich, anyone wearing a Legacy jersey or Big Blue UK and Ireland merch will get a pint, a drink of their choice, I should say.
Do they do pints in Germany?
Stein.
Yeah. There'll be plenty of Steins on the go, let's put it that way. As always, remember to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already, follow us on all the socials, all the links are in the description down below, and obviously ring the bell, because then you're notified of when we go live. If you aren't already, like I said, follow us on everything. But my thanks, as ever, go to Shane and to Kev for joining me, to Adam from the Full 10 Yards for coming onto the podcast to talk Bengals, and to all of you watching or listening. We are signing off. Until next time, let's go.